What's good? What's good? What's good? What's good? Welcome everybody to another episode of Public Comments. What's going on, Jordan? Happy Friday, bro.
What's happening, man?
Oh
Glad to
man,
be here, bro. How was your week?
dude, it's been good, man. It's been good. It's been a good week. A lot of good experiences so far. I've been doing a lot of research. I've been doing a lot of studying on the catastrophe. I'm excited to get into this topic today. But what's good with you, man? How was your week?
Same, bro. Same. It's been a good week for myself personally. Took advantage of the volatility in the markets this week. Had a nice little growth in the account. Been diving deep into crypto Twitter. What's going on there? It's a bloodbath.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
also have the same perspective. It's like it's exciting in a way that I know major opportunities are coming. So it's been
Facts.
good.
Big facts. Well, today we have not only a special guest, but the first what do we call it? What's the president's wife? The first lady. Yeah, the first lady so far since you and I have been hosting this, the first lady to run up the podcast. She's been on the podcast before, in the first, let's call it the first season. So I'm excited to kind of have a conversation. But this is somebody for everybody listening or watching. Nancy's somebody that I had the privilege of working very early on, since before she became Nancy. I mean, she was always Nancy, but she was the Nancy that people don't know. And I've seen just an incredible amount of growth and just an incredible amount of leadership come out of this woman. And I respect women a lot. I think Jordan and I have this same kind of like respect for women. I respect my mom, my sister, and just my first mentor was a woman, so I really truly look up to women who run the world. And Nancy, is you're one of those people that I truly respect. So I'm excited to have a conversation with you. What's going on with you? How was your week?
Yeah. Um, my week was great. Same thing as Jordan, the volatility in the market. I like it a lot. But thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here with both of you. Like you said, I was here last time. My hair was a different color.
It was.
So I'm excited to have a conversation. I have no idea where it's gonna go, but I'm here for it.
That's
Yeah, we
good.
totally just go like even how we started it. Mano, we jump on the Zoom, let's go live,
Let's
and
see
we
what
just have a
happens.
conversation to see where it goes. But yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation as well, Nancy. It's been insane to see the growth. I think we've known each other for almost 10 years now. Now we didn't know each other quite too well in the beginning, but I think we made our first acquaintance in what 2013.
That's
Like,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah.
Damn.
So it's been super cool. Obviously, me and Nancy know each other. We went to school together, went to university at UIC together. But I know you really well. I know Mano knows you really well. For the people who are listening who don't know you well, who is Nancy Aguilera?
That's a loaded question. Okay, I think something that I identify myself as would be wholeheartedly like a businesswoman, but also like a servant. Like I like to serve others. I'm a nurturer just by nature. I'm a traveler. Like I just created a new TikTok, guys. Nomad Nance, which only took me like 5 years to create. But I feel like I wear a lot of hats, and to say that I'm either this or that is just kind of confining. So I do a little bit of it all. Like I love looking at charts every once in a while and just like marking that up. I love volunteering whenever I can. I love cleaning up beaches whenever I can. I love traveling and eating new food whenever I can. So I do my best to make sure I get all of that done.
Oh, you're all over the place.
All over the place. That's I
I
can't
love
answer
that.
that
So
question.
so before you became this person, I know you and Jordan met in college, right? Who were you? I know your story,
No.
right? And I kind of want to hear the 2012, 2011, 2015 side of Nancy.
Um, okay, we can take a walk down memory lane. I would say that I was a little bit of a hard ass for no reason. Always a hard worker though, so I would actually just like not go to class so that I can put in more hours at work, and then I picked up the second job and then eventually a third. I just didn't care. My interest wasn't at school. Like Jordan knows, we took some engineering classes together, so I just was not present, like mentally, physically, just not there. Um, I drank a lot. I was I was a little bit of a degen, but like not the producing kind. Just like I would just waste a dumb amount of money on buying drinks for myself or others. Like I'd like to be not necessarily like the life of the party, but like I wanted to make sure that everyone was having a good time. And like I said, I was just blowing money left and right. I didn't care. I didn't have a care in the world. And eventually that led to me being like lost, but we don't have to get into that.
What was your drink of choice?
The strongest kind. Like I drank like a 200-pound dude.
Yeah, I can
Um,
vouch for that. I can vouch
yeah,
for
like
that.
like gross beer, any dark liquor, Long Island's.
Oh yeah, those are some crazy times. I remember that. I can definitely vouch for Nancy. Nancy was like one of the boys. Like she was like well respected. Like we had a good time and we'd go out and we'd rage. And thank God for Mike. Thank God for Mike showed us something better to do with our money, right?
Not before also participating though.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, yeah. Can't leave that out.
Gotta throw them under the bus a little bit, you know.
The funny thing is that that's kind of how it would be if any one of us were to like expose the other. Like we also have like an arsenal of blackmail, so we play our cards right.
That's funny. So now fast forward into like, you know, business mindset and, you know, serial entrepreneur, Nancy, who were some of your influences to get into this space? Besides, like, I know obviously now you probably look up to different people that you looked up to, you know, 2-3 years, you know, down the road, 2-3 years ago, but who were some of your influencers that got you to the point where you're at right now?
So I remember this very clearly, like when I was still working at, I'm going to call it like my big girl job. Like I was working like a corner office, doing like accounts payable, like boring work, monotonous, but nonetheless, that's when I started to dabble into, I would literally go on YouTube and type in like, teach me something new, because I literally didn't know what I didn't know. So I was just like, I can't dive into something. I don't know what to get, I don't know where to get started. So eventually somehow I ended up with, I'm sure you guys know the channel like Sacred Geometry or Spirit Science is what it's called. And then eventually somehow I got led into Tom Bilyeu. And this is when Tom Bilyeu had like, I don't know, probably less than 10,000 subscribers on YouTube or something like that. So I would start to binge watch Tom Bilyeu and get into a little bit of biohacking, Vishen Lakhiani, like Mind Valley, Ed Milet. I forgot what his slogan is, but yeah, I think that's what really inspired me to like just do something different and get into that entrepreneurial mindset, which actually ironically when I was looking into like, okay, what am I going to do for the rest of my life, that conversation that comes up so often when you're 17, 18, 19 years old, I looked into entrepreneurship because I didn't even know what the word meant, and I was just like, oh no, that's not for me. Like that sounds like a lot of like you rely on yourself to get ahead. Like, nobody's going to do the work for you and nobody's going to tell you what to do. Like you got to do it for you. So I actually told myself like, that's not me. And then funny enough, like, 4 years down the road, that's exactly what would be the ticket to freedom, if you will, the golden ticket.
Yeah.
To answer your question, it was YouTube, Tom Bilyeu. Big shout out to that guy. He's a complete nerd and I absolutely love it.
Yeah. I just saw a Gary Vee short on YouTube, right? That he was talking to Logic about a Rubik's Cube, and he's like, "Did you use YouTube to learn how to do that?" And he's like, "Yeah." And Gary Vee was like, "It's so surprising how much like that's the answer to everything nowadays. Is like YouTube this, YouTube that. I learned how to do, you know, wholesale real estate. I learned majority of my knowledge about real estate through YouTube. It's crazy." So you talked about. I want to ask a question, kind of parallel to what you just talked about, right? And you mentioned that, you know, when you looked into entrepreneurship, that wasn't really your lane. It seemed like you had to depend a lot on yourself. I feel like there's a culture nowadays of everybody looking into entrepreneurship and everybody trying to do entrepreneurship, and people take that road. Some people for a very short amount of time, some people really stick to it. But I know that entrepreneurship is not for everybody. How did you know that it was for you? And then like side note to that question, like how can other people that are looking into entrepreneurship, that are like kind of on the fence, maybe have dabbled into it, like what piece of advice can you give them like down their road?
So one, I think to preface even that, I now believe that I wasn't in alignment with entrepreneurship in like before because I wasn't as evolved. It just, I would literally wasn't on the same frequency as that. I was in my past paradigm, so it's just like, I was very traditional, like, okay, you go to school, you do the thing that everyone expects you to do. But to answer your question, so I was listening to an audiobook today. I forgot what it's called, but he says that give yourself 12 months, give yourself a year, because you either persevere or you plummet. So it's like, if you're not going to give yourself at least 12 months, you know, like these things take time. More than anything, they take repetition. So if you're only giving yourself, I don't know, like 2 hours a day, or let's say that 3 hours or 6 hours a week on the weekends, because, you know, people claim that they're busy, then, and then in 3 months from now, you're going to give up. Like, you didn't give yourself a fighting chance. So I would say give yourself at least a year of like tedious, like meticulous work ethic. And then you can say, okay, I gave it a go. It's either for me or it's not. You can find a different endeavor.
I like that. You think there's like a lot, do you think there's a lot of clout with entrepreneurship right now?
I don't know if it would be clout, but like you mentioned, there definitely is an uprise in entrepreneurship. I will say that I kind of have to give it to like Gen Z, because a lot of them just already are growing up with the mindset of, I don't want to I don't want to do the traditional. I don't want to do what my parents did and their parents did. So I will say that maybe it's in the limelight more because Gen Z might be just highlighting it more on, you know, like Instagram and TikTok. They just might be louder, and it also just might be the material, the content that we're consuming. It just seems like more people are doing it. Do we know if more people are actually doing it? I don't know. I don't know the stats
I
for
think
that.
there's definitely like a growing awareness that some of the more reliable systems that people have lived on, like jobs, you know, schools, aren't as reliable anymore, you know, especially with what happened in the last couple of years. So people are looking naturally for alternatives, new means to living life, you know, to thriving. I'm kind of curious, you mentioned that you found yourself that you weren't in alignment. What were some of the things that changed and that you got aligned with that allowed you to like just take entrepreneurship to that next level?
I think that personal development, like listening to like Ed Milet, Tom Bilyeu, they really were the ones that were like expanding my mind and just meeting new people. Like, I think when we're growing up, and this is no diss to my parents or anything like that, but at least for me, like I grew up pretty sheltered. I was a rebel, but nonetheless, like they put me in like private school and things like that. So I wouldn't be, because I grew up on the south side of Chicago. So like, thank you for that, for sure. I'm grateful. But because I was so sheltered and I kind of like just had this like route paved for me before. So I just felt very complacent there. I felt really uncomfortable feeling that complacency. And then that's where I just kind of like, I need to learn something different. And again, speaking to like new people, I actually love networking, like just meeting new people and having conversations, because there's a little seed that drops that can eventually, not even today, but later down the road, realize that it actually left an impact on you. And I think that's what happened, especially even ironically at the job that I was working. Like it was a family-owned business that had been or is around for over like 60, 70, 80 years. I'm not really sure. But I was working for them. I know how much everyone was making because I was doing accounts payable. Like I was like, okay, I want to be on that side of the check. So so I was just like, there's just something's got to give. This ain't it.
What was the most somebody was making?
So I would get a weekly, well, not me personally, but I would get into the account that had a weekly $2 million like deposit. And I would use those $2 million to make sure that everyone is being paid correctly. But people,
Right, so you were in big money before you were even in big money.
yeah, exactly. I was seeing all these big numbers and I'm just like, and mind you, like they actually had a decent pay. Like I was getting paid more than my friends for sure. Which then caused, you know, bad spending habits. But but yeah, I was seeing bigger numbers and I was just like, this is rad.
That's cool.
That.
Yo, Jordan, I had kind of a question. I know you're not the guest, right? But I think this is kind of interesting because Nancy and I, right, we both grew up with like very traditional, like, you know, Hispanic, conservative, very like traditional parents. Um, and like I see a lot of immigrants, a lot of minorities take entrepreneurship a lot more seriously than people that are like native to the US. How do you feel about that? Do you see, like, I mean, obviously you have an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur, you have an entrepreneur spirit, but like, like how do you see that? Like, do you
I
see the same
agree.
thing?
I agree 100%. I think, and it's interesting you bring this copy up. So my mom's actually here visiting. We were just talking about this yesterday. My mom used to own a business, and now owning my own business, I agree though. I think that maybe people who have been here, families who have been more established here, have, like what Nancy has said, have maybe had a path laid out for them. And so when you have some sort of path to whatever means you're going for laid out for you, you're less likely to take the risk and deviate from that plan versus when you're coming here looking for opportunities. And that's why I think this makes this place great. What makes America great is that people come here looking for those opportunities, and we do legitimately have those opportunities to create equity. Like that's what I think the entrepreneurial spirit is. And when you realize, and that's why I was asking that question about alignment, because that's what big thing what it was for me, was like realizing, okay, there's one path of like being an employee, having things kind of planned and following maybe the plan that you didn't create. Sure, it will take care of you. And it took care of a lot of people. And I think the people that have had that sort of history in their past where their families like got taken care of by that system aren't as likely to jump out of that system versus people who are coming here realizing, hey, I can get equity, create equity for myself, get equity in a company, get equity in business. Getting that ownership of something is much more important for someone who hasn't been taken care of by a system.
I love that. That's interesting. I love hearing that perspective because I think that's I think a lot of even just like well-established companies nowadays have been created by immigrants. Andrew Carnegie, right, was from Scotland. So it's like it's kind of been a trend since the
that's
industrial
the American dream, right? I mean, that's the American philosophy. Is like none of us, not even people who have been here for hundreds of years, who are considered right the majority or whatever. This actually white people aren't the majority anymore, but nobody is native here. Everyone came here, even the original settlers, in seek of opportunity, right? And so I think that's what unites everybody coming here as Americans is like we're all here to create opportunity, to create and pursue a different way of prosperity.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting to wonder. That was a question I wanted to ask you, Nancy, is like because I love hearing everyone's version of it. Everyone has a different version of what prosperity is, like what success is, like what they're going for, what they're working towards. So what is that for you, Nance?
I think success is whatever you want it to be. Like if you, I forget who says it. I don't want to butcher it, but it's just like whatever makes you happy. It sounds so cliche, maybe even corny, but like, dude, just do what makes you happy, what brings you peace, like where you feel good and tranquil with no like stress, BS. Like I'm a firm believer that we were not put here to pay bills and die. Like that's not a life. That's merely barely existing. So like my version of prosperity might be different than your version of prosperity, success, same thing. So it's just like my version right now at who I am right now, because it's going to evolve as I evolve, right? It's making sure that I'm happy, making sure that my family's happy, that we're taken care of, and that at least we're accumulating experiences along the way because they're a good time.
Dude, that's so important right there. Accumulating experiences. I love that. That's so deep. I think that goes over a lot of people's head too, is a lot of people think success is the Benz and then, pool in the backyard with a couple kids,
And take that with you.
Yeah, right. But the experiences, I love that.
Yeah, Johnny said on a former podcast, he's like, dude, I'm an addict. I'm an addict. He said he's addicted to experience. Like Kevin too mentioned a different way, like just addicted to getting the next experience, like just getting what life has to offer. Because there's so much and we have so many tools and there's so many ways now to get it. And like that's why I'm generally bullish on things and just every aspect of life, even given the crazy circumstances, which somehow always get brought up on this podcast. Is because we've continually been able to create more opportunities for ourselves as we get more developed as a race, species, more awareness, how we interact with each other, the technology, the opportunities available. It's constantly expanding. So what are I want another question for you, Nancy. Do you have any exciting opportunities on the horizon that you're looking at? Like what gets you excited about the world of business and life right now?
All right. So what are my objectives for until the end of 2022 is to have 10 properties, just international, at least under, we were doing Airbnb. We paused that for a little bit, but I want to have 10 properties on Airbnb or, like leasing. Airbnb just has more turnover. So that's kind of where I'm leaning. But that's it. Maybe we have like a trading psychology book or a trading workbook come out, something like that. But
so you got that smile on your face like it's already drafted.
No, actually, no. I have that smile on my face because like I mentioned before, like I wear so many hats and I get really excited to get into things. And this might actually be like, this is a double-edged sword. where I want to do everything. And like, I'll take action on things, and I don't like leaving things like half-assed. But when you're dabbling into 23 different lanes, that tends to happen, So it is a double-edged sword. And the reason why I laugh is because, like, yeah, I have like one page of that workbook, but it's something that has been left unfinished.
I love that. So let's address some of the things that all three of us have in common, right? So we're all investors. We all love money. We're all participating in the markets, whether it be trading, whether it be investing, whether it be, I mean, just sitting on the sidelines, right? Whatever it may be. But where do you see the current state of the union right now? Obviously, everybody's understanding right now that we're entering or have already been for the last couple of months in a recession. I know you're huge into cryptos and NFTs, and that's obviously not doing so well in perspective of when it was doing very well, 8 months ago. But what's kind of like your take on just overall financial markets right now?
Okay. So it still baffles me how everything really is orchestrated. And
Yeah.
like, let's show it. So this recession, closing on a position that they opened up at the bottom of pandemic, like that
2020,
100,000.
right?
Yeah, like when last February, not last February, February 2020, when it
February,
went all the
March.
way up and then just started over a 6-week period, just died
Yeah.
at the beginning of pandemic. Yeah, that position's left open.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what we're experiencing right now. It's like we're going to continue to drop, and this is all my speculation, right? But I feel like we're going to continue to drop because of that.
Yeah.
Then we can go ahead and make higher highs, but if it doesn't happen now, it'll happen later.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just talking to Jordan about this, like before we started recording. Like the speculation of like, okay, for example, I'll give you a real life example, right? Like my interest rate for when I bought my house was 3.14%, right? That's my interest rate, and it's a fixed rate. Current interest rate right now is like 6.8, 6.9, so it's double from 18 months ago. And like that's exactly what happened in 2008. It was like everybody's interest rates were so low, 1, 2, 3%. And then all of a sudden they just jacked them up. And so boom, it burst the bubble because nobody can afford to make money anymore. And so that's kind of what's happening here. That's
but everything's happening at the same time.
yeah. So how do you see the third? Because now it's a three-headed monster, right? In 2008, it was a housing market crash. 2001, it was a stock market crash. Now it's I saw a meme today that I sent to Jordan on Instagram, right? It was like the death, right? The Grim Reaper, and it was three doors, and it was the stock market, and there was blood, and then there was a crypto market, and there was blood, and then it was knocking on the real estate market. So like now there's three big financial markets. Like, do you think that it's gonna affect all of them, or like how do you see this progressing?
Yeah, I do think that they're all it's going to get really ugly. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And I think because everything is connected, right? Like and I don't know, this is just the way that I see it, right? Because inflation that was caused during 40% of the money being printed because of pandemic, everyone was out of work and things like that. So that caused inflation. Inflation is causing people to, I guess, get a little bit more savvy and get out of their higher risk investments, i.e. crypto, NFTs, things like that. And so it's a slippery slope to the downside. It's like everyone's just undercutting one another. So yeah, I think it's like a domino effect. It's taking misery loves company. It's everything's taking it out together.
Oh yeah, dude. There's a lot of stuff going on in crypto, right? Latest is like Three Arrows Capital, 3ACs. Everyone's talking about them. They're insolvent. Their founder is on the run. They're over leveraged, can't pay back loans, and the effect of that is other companies that have loans with them can't also become insolvent. And we're heavily positioned in Luna, so it's like one domino, like you said, it's the domino effect of like knocking down more and more dominoes. But at the same time, it's so necessary. It's so necessary because the markets were extremely overvalued, extremely overinflated. And so now, like the fact that it's basically a giant purge, the only things that will be left standing are the things that have legitimate value. And like Bitcoin and Ethereum have been battle tested already. We already know we've seen 85, 90% drops in crypto markets. And we've seen those networks survive, rally, right? But yeah, it's gonna be exciting for me, I think, to look at some of the newer things that came out in this last 2 years, and which one of those are the blue chips, right? Which one of those projects are actually going to make it through this next bearish market? Because I think not good 95% of them won't, you know. So it's gonna be
What you
crazy.
got your eye on? What are you eyeing, Jordan?
I was gonna ask you the same exact thing. I have a few projects. I've yet to get into Solana. I got my eyes on a couple Solanas. I like the Curse Labs. I'm looking at those right now. It's my first Solana blue chip to like, well, now you know me, and it's like, for those who don't, I'm a class of 2017 for crypto, so it's not my first bear market. I went all in with my student loans 2017, bought all of the shit, all of the hype, lost it all. So like this cycle, in sense, I've always been focused on longevity in terms of my investments in crypto, knowing the volatility of the cycles. But yeah, Curse Labs on Solana, on Ethereum, I'm in 8 bits. I'm in Quirkies, and then I like the frogs. I got some of the plague. But
Oh, nice. I know Mike got some of those too.
nice. What about you? Are you looking at anything else?
So same thing, Curse Lab. Like, here's the thing, and I know that you guys understand this, but for like those of the listening, just because it makes sense and it has utility doesn't mean it does well. And also vice versa, you know, like the whole like psychological thing with like selling things. Just because that I sell something doesn't mean I don't believe in it. So it goes both ways. It's like a reflection or like a mirror. So I believe in Cursed Labs. I believe in the Plague Frogs. I believe in Quirkies just because I know who's behind it. Like they have a lot of people of influence behind it, and not even just like influence, but affluence. You know, like I don't think it's kind of, everything is fractal, right? Like let's pretend that the Bored Apes are like the Federal Reserve for the sake of this example. If the Bored Apes are like the Rothschilds in the NFT world, and they're like, I guess, shilling Quirkies and then 2.0 Quirklings, then it's like, okay, well, the banks don't lose, so I'm just gonna hop on this bandwagon and ride it up and, you know, take my profit. But it is really cool seeing like the community, like being on the inside and being able to have conversations again and being able to pick people's brains, because there are some people that got, I wouldn't want to say lucky, but that got into Bored Apes when they were super, super low. Like the mint price was like $185 at the time, like 0.2 ETH, right? So some people got lucky. I believe though that the way that this works for the most part, when someone, let's say like your average Joe, right? When somebody buys something at less than $200, and then that thing rides up to $250,000, $300,000, $400,000, you know, and then the rarities and things like that, the venom or whatever it's called, you know, adds value to it. It's like a lot of those people don't tend to hold because it just did like a lot in return. So the people that are getting in, they have experience with investments. They have experience with being able to get in at something at 200K and ride it to 2 mil. So it's like, okay, if these people are the ones that I'm in a community with, then I want to be part of the community. I want to sit at a table. I want to learn. Even if this goes to shit, that at least I don't know if I'm allowed to swear here, but even if this, you know, if this goes bad, then at least I learned something. At least I got new connections, you know?
That's so interesting. There's such a big difference in like flippers and investors. And I think that for me has been something that's very difficult. Well, not difficult to understand anymore, but was very difficult for me to understand in the beginning, that like, well, number one, getting over greed, right? Like, oh shit, you just got something for 200. Now it's, 800. Let me see if it can go up to 1,000, and then it goes to 100, right? So that was the first thing. But now lately it's been, okay, am I going to buy this with the intention of just making a quick bag, or am I going to buy this with the intention of holding it long term because it's an investment? And I think that is such a problem for people nowadays, because I don't remember who said it, but I was watching a documentary that said that lately in the last bull run in cryptos and in stocks, there's been a lot of fake success. There's been a lot of people that just got lucky because they just bought into something, and then boom, it skyrocketed, and they don't really know what they're doing. They just bought something, and overnight, boom, it's now worth 200 times more. So how did you get and how are you developing that mindset of like an actual investor and not just someone that's just like making a quick flip, or are you still doing those things?
It's been a while since I got in and out of something really quickly, but I'm not opposed to it. Like a bag is a bag, you know, it's just like disposable income. Cool. You get in, you get out unattached. But I did listen to a podcast a long time ago before the bloodbath that we're experiencing. And this guy, I actually don't remember his name because he's not like this crypto guru that, you know, we hear about. But he gave his testimony on a podcast, and he talked about how he got into Bitcoin at like, I don't know, sub $800. Or actually it might have been like $7, something ridiculous, point being. And then he got out, and then at the retracement, he had a lot more capital. He got in again and he got out. Like he was riding the waves with precision. And then not just with Bitcoin, but also I think it was with like XRP or XLM, one of those. And anyway, point being, to conclude, on this podcast, you know, people were asking him like the questions because he had a lot of affluence now, he had a lot of capital, and he goes, look, I just got in at the right time, at the right time, at the right place. I actually don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, if you want to learn about crypto, you find someone that can teach you, because that's not me. He's just, I was just at the right place at the right time, and then I did it again. I was like, yeah. Because I feel like so many people want to be that person, like, and I can't blame them, you know, like if you feel like you know something, cool, express it. But I feel like a lot of people are, you know, like the crypto gurus just because they got into Doge or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a huge difference between a single successful trade, like Mark Douglas says it. It takes no skill in getting in a winning trade. You press the button. The skill is consistently winning trades, you know, and it's like being able to develop consistent results to prove to yourself that you are someone that is able to predict and like analyze, take risk, profit consistently, you know, building that track record. And I think too, I wanted to touch on that subject of flipping versus investing, because for myself, that was something I also struggled with, is like crypto. I've been in crypto for a while, and I've realized I have developed emotional attachments to certain things in cryptocurrencies. And my strategy is a lot of intuition and just based on me like doing my own research and finding value. So what I found for myself, I've distinguished the markets. You know, crypto for me isn't a flip, because my analysis in crypto is to find the value, and then I believe in finding the value and holding that long term, that will win out. That's my thesis. That's my investment strategy. It's been working so far for me. And then when it comes to flipping, you know, there's markets like FX indices that are moving with, you know, crazy amounts every single day, and the emotional attachment there is zero, and it's so much easier to get in, get out with the bag. But yeah, I don't know, Nancy, if you want to touch on that and your experience with just like that flipping versus investing mindset, because I think that is something that ensnares a lot of people with crypto, is like, it's the not taking profits, like getting too greedy, becoming diamond hands when they should have got out. And there's a lot of intricacies with it. You know, you mentioned that you're coming out the trading psychology book, and I've seen your guys' success in the NFT markets and cryptos lately. So, but yeah, if you wanted to touch on that topic of like flipping versus investing.
Yeah, I feel like, okay, like it is a one size fits all, but it's also not. Like I can't give like this like 3-part handbook and say like this is going to work every time. Like that's just not the way that it works, right? Like I can say, yeah, I have diamond hands, but we've seen, okay, like what are diamond hands going to do at this point? I mean, at this point we're just holding on, right? But okay, so I would say first and foremost, like before you even get into something, know when and why you're going to be getting out of it. Like before you even decide to get into this project, know why you're getting out of it. And I would say like another thing for like investors and flippers alike is people need to learn how to live with their decisions, because I feel like a lot, like we focus a lot, or we feel, right, we're human beings, we feel a lot of remorse, we feel a lot of the regret, like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, then we beat ourselves up for it. It's just like, look, I think a good investor just lives with his or her decision. Like if there's always going to be opportunity cost, right? Like, okay, like Mondo said, you gave an example, like I got in on something at 200, it went up to 800. Can it go up further? Yes, it possibly can. Can it crash? Also true. So make a decision. I think decision making is a skill set. So make the decision and then live with it. If she keeps going up and you left money on the table, live with it. If you got out at the wrong time and then turns around, or whatever the case may be, live with it. And then, you know, just look at your loss, you know, however many investments, how do they do? What did you do? Are you consistent or not? So you're not making like just a bunch of different mistakes. I think with some consistency, and like we all trade Forex here. So it's just like, if you have no confirmation checklist, then like you can't really tell if you're doing anything right or wrong because there's no consistency. So same thing with investments. It's just like, okay, how many times have I gotten in? Did I let my last investment affect this investment? Because last time I might have held on too long or not held on too long. And now I'm letting that affect this one without its own like analysis. You know, maybe the investment does something completely different. But I would say that it's just like live with your decision. Like you got to decide beforehand and then live with it.
Yeah,
That was
that's such a
fire.
bar.
I personally like taking the bag and missing out on some profits
Yeah.
and watching that shit go all the way back and making nothing.
That hurts, man.
Yeah.
That
Dude,
hurts.
you can't go broke taking profits.
That
And that's
exactly. That's literally like what I tell myself all the time.
oh yeah. Oh,
Even
yeah.
if it's a little bit at a time, like the crumbs, I'm cool with it. I won't
Even
go
if you're
hungry.
catching, 50% of the move, even 40%, 30%, 25% of the move, you still caught a move.
Because liquidity is power. Like let's continue the same example. Let's say we got in at 200, it went up to 800, but then it kept going to 1500. Okay, I'm good with the 800 because guess what? Then I have $800 or whatever to get in on another investment whenever the opportunity presents itself.
Yep.
If I'm holding, I don't have the liquidity. Liquidity is power.
That's a hard decision to live with, though, I think, for people is because of the social nature now we have of investing in crypto, especially, is like I think we've all experienced it. You get that euphoria, you get that like, dude, it's gonna keep going. Why the fuck would I get out right now? Like it's going to 100K. Like everyone was convinced Bitcoin was going to 100K. So it's like it's difficult. It's easier. It's like it's easier in conversation. And obviously having that experience and journaling and learning from it, that's where you develop that ability to make that decision when it becomes difficult. But Nancy, have you diamond handed anything? Are you diamond handing anything right now?
The one I guess quote unquote regret that I wish I would have like taken more. I did take profits off something, but I'm sure you guys both invested in BRA. Got in super freaking early, right? We saw it go to almost 8 cents or almost 9 cents, something like that. And I think it was 8 cents, and then 9 cents was my take profit. Like I said, I'm gonna hold on to 99% of this until 9 cents. And it just missed, and we're sitting back at a penny or less.
To follow up on that, and this is something I'm dealing with my current trading investing. Do you allow flexibility with your take profits, or are you learning to be more
That's
rigid
what I'm
with it? 'Cause
learning.
it's like if you have that set take profit, that can almost like be a conviction that can limit you from taking profits. You're like, no, I'm not getting out until it hits here. But then at the same time, the drawdown of holding it to take profit might not hit. You might not get anything.
Exactly. That's exactly the decision that I have to live with because I made that. Would I do things differently? I mean, yeah, hindsight 2020. But I mean, I took out some to give like my family for a home. So I'm actually glad I did that. Otherwise it'd be even saltier. But yeah, the cool thing about knowing how to read charts is that she gave us another opportunity to get out. We saw the distribution, whether or not you paid attention. Like that's the thing. And I want to ask you guys this: how do you teach someone to not have like blind hope? Like, yeah, I wanted it to hit 9 cents, but how do you teach someone to like, listen, man, it just might not make it there,
I don't think that's like, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a teacher, right? I don't consider myself to be like someone at a high stable of, power to give somebody like that piece of advice. But I personally think it has to be experience. Like you have to experience that for you to realize like, okay, look, because this has happened to me so much in my trading, and that's something that I'm getting very good at now is like, okay, if I'm like in regular trading, right? Margin trading, I trail my stop. So if it comes back, I'm securing profit. Like, and then I'm okay. Just like Jordan said, right? It's okay if like if I only caught 25% of the move, 30% of the move, like I at least caught some of the move, and then just like mix with what you said, right? Liquidity is power. Now I can take another position risk free because I'm risking the profit from my last trade versus, not taking profit, risking a break even or even a loss because I didn't manage my trade very well, and then having to risk more of my previous liquidity into that. But this just took me 4 years to learn. So it's like, can I give somebody the answer now? Like, yeah, just lose a bunch of times and then realize like, yo, this is not working. But my thing would just be like management. I think something, even in investing, management of how you, like, investing is not just putting your money into something. Trading is not just clicking the button. Like, that's easy. You know, Mark Douglas says this all the time. Like, what physical skill is trading? None. Like, you just push a button.
Click.
It's green. Yeah. Green, I mean, blue or red. And that's it. Trading is once you're in. Investing is once you're in. Because getting in is simple. It's
Mhm.
like how you manage it while you're in and then getting out. So that's, that would be my answer. I don't know what you got to say, Jordan.
I think I agree with you. I think the market is the best teacher. Like
Yeah.
it teaches you the lessons you need to learn. And my focus, as a leader and with the business that we run and being in the community is like just helping people sustain that experience, like helping people go through that journey because it can be difficult. It can be emotionally very challenging. Financially, it can be very challenging. So it's like I know it's a game of survival, and I know inevitably the market will teach you the lessons that you need to learn. So my concern with helping others learn that lesson is just helping them stay in the game, helping them, soothe the losses, like not get too hyped on the wins, developing that discipline, developing that cool-headedness, that risk-free trading mindset, because that's the people who are able to stay calm under pressure, understand losses are part of the game, not get too hyped on the wins. That's the mentality, like Mark Douglas says it. It's like, what's the difference? Like trading is a psychological skill set.
Mhm.
It's like anybody can hit. A lot of people, who play basketball player, Hoover, myself, right? You go in the gym, nobody's there, you're shooting free throws. Sure, you can make 7, 8 out of 10, easy. But you're on the line, 7 seconds left, game 7, NBA Finals. Not too many people can make those shots when it really, really matters.
Unless you're
And
Steph
trading
Curry
and
and you win the
investing.
finals.
Oh man, I wish. Shout out to Golden State, Steph Curry, my man. Love that guy. But yeah, dude, it's when the pressure's on, and when you're in the markets and financially the pressure is on. Obviously, risk management's a huge part of alleviating that pressure, but that's just the matrix we live in, and money has been a form of control for so many people for so long. So it is a difficult thing to break free of psychologically, of like the stress of needing and wanting to make money, because it's crazy when you stop caring about it. That's actually when it starts working out for you.
Yeah. That's so key, man. That's so key. And I think that's something that, like, again, you have to learn through kind of experience. And Nancy, I kind of want to shift the conversation. We've been talking about money and business for a little bit now, but kind of want to dive deep into a little bit of a different subject because I know, I wish we had, I'm sure we do. I just haven't looked, right? But statistics of like the, what, uh, like men and women listen to this, right? But I'm sure we get a lot of men that listen to this, and so you're the first woman that we've had a conversation with Jordan here, and I kind of want to get into a little bit of like how and it's I thought about this question because I thought of the Hormozis, right? You guys put me onto that, and it's so cool to see like the relatability that you and Mike have to like Alex and I can't remember her name. What's her name? What was it? Layla, right? Alex and Layla, right? Like they talk about, and they did like a whole series on like alpha, right?
Mhm.
And you and Mike are very alpha. Like you guys both have very alpha. Well, Alex Hermosi is a lot more like physically looking alpha than Mike, right? But Mike is definitely an alpha, he's very humble alpha, but like you can tell when he walks in a room, like this guy is someone to be respected. Same with you. So like how is it like, and what is that kind of like relationship balance that you guys have? Like do you guys ever clash, or do you guys ever like like not argue but like have fusses about certain mental things, or is it just like a very harmonious kind of relationship you guys live with, both being alphas in business and in life?
Yeah, I think more so on leaning on the latter side. Like we actually we don't argue, we don't fight. Like I couldn't tell you the last time that we actually went like butted heads. But the funny thing is that, and this might not even have to do with being alpha, but like with being, we'll call it personally developed, and just like knowing certain things, like we'll push each other's buttons in ways of like, I can't even give you guys an example right now. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but you know what I mean? It's just like, if I say something, I'll be like, no, that's just the way that you received it, or that's your perception, or something like a little bit smart ass remarks, but it's valid, but maybe not the best delivery, or maybe not the right time, or something like that. But no, we don't really clash too much in terms of like, actually we work really well together. I will say that. Like, I have certain strengths, he has certain strengths. We leverage each other's strengths and weaknesses and things like that. We feel what it is that we have to fill. Actually, I appreciate you, man.
Has it always been like
Listener.
that? Yeah, he's
I
over
say
there in the
so.
corner. He's over there in
Yeah,
the
you
corner
just saw
taking
him walking
notes.
around over here.
Has it
Uh,
always been like that?
for the most part, like you guys know Mike, he doesn't really raise his voice. He's a good guy. So actually, I will say this, like we can get into a little bit of this segue, but because like Jordan knows, I've been dating Mike for a long time. When I got into this relationship coming out of my previous relationship, I was really confused as to why we weren't bickering, why we weren't fighting. And I heard a quote not too long ago of like, when you have certain kind of paradigms of what a relationship looks like or what love looks like, peace starts to feel like boredom, because you start to yearn like, why am I not arguing with you? Do you not care about me? Things like that. So that actually showed me a little bit of like, what's going on here? But no, Mike's always been like that stable person. Just like he just knows what he does it well, emotionally and evolved, things like that. So it allowed me to learn about myself and how relationships should be.
I think I would pay to see Mike get mad.
He gets irked.
Like Mike pulls up to the airport, gate closed. Like, I feel like that's like the one scenario
that
on an international flight
there
to an event
might have
that
been a
he's
couple of those.
to an event that he has to headline.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be it right there. That would be the trigger.
Someone claiming that you need a vaccine when you don't need a vaccine to travel.
Oh.
Yo, so let's go. Let's Jordan, we always do this, bro, but we just have to, bro. I feel like Nancy's a perfect
Go
person
there.
to tap into.
Yeah.
Let's go there for a little bit. How do you feel about this whole thing just like vanishing? That's gone. Then there's like war, and now it's recession, and then it's like shit's catching on fire. That's probably good for you, right? Factory farms catching on fire. Nancy's like, yes, one less
Oh,
down.
but the fucking animals are in there, man.
Yeah.
It's not the point. I think this is all movie. Like, it's like this is season 2022 of,
Like there's directors to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, we got to keep them on their toes, so what are we doing next season?
Yeah.
We'll find out.
I'm
I
getting
think it's
over
all-
like the food shortages and recession and inflation. I want the freaking alien invasion. I'm ready for the next
Yeah,
like the
you
rising
can
plot.
really switch it up.
Hey, I'm ready for the zombies, man.
No zombies. I'll do aliens.
Oh man, what if we already got the zombies?
Oh.
What if we already got the aliens?
Oh.
Oh.
Dang. That's funny. So what are I know you kind of dabbled into a little bit of like, real estate deals and stuff like that and some opportunities, but what are some of the things that you're doing to prepare for opportunities that are coming? Because obviously we're not at the bottom right now. So like strategically, now that you've been around, the financial markets and success and, really wise people, which is something that we should talk about here next. But like, what are some of the things that you're doing to prepare to take advantage of some of the up and coming opportunities?
Funny enough, stacking cash, like saving, not spending more than I have to, limiting my times to Starbucks and things like that, like not going online shopping. Like, I really want to have a decent amount for when it does hit the bottom and we see that accumulation and we see the break of structure, and it's giving us signs that she ready. I want to be ready. This is like third time's a charm. Come on. Put me in, coach. I want to be ready.
Yeah, I gotta be ready. Gotta stack boats to unload that clip at the bottom, because that's the game. Name of the game. I think that's what's happening is they want to, if to use the same metaphor with the gun, but it's like they want to take your ammo, and if you have no ammo to buy in at the bottom,
Yeah.
then like you can't take advantage. So
Dang.
stack ammo.
You guys saw that Dallas is buying back guns. I don't know if you guys saw that,
I
but
did see that.
I don't watch the news.
No, well, I don't either. Jordan Morgan posted on his story, so that's kind of the news. That's the
That's
only
the
news I watch.
news.
That's the only news I watch. Yeah, but he posted that Dallas is giving $100 Visa card to anybody that turns in an unloaded gun.
Okay. What do you guys think the motive is for that? Quote unquote safety, or like they just want to load up on guns?
Gun control, yeah, safety. It's like, I think there's that narrative that's like citizens, there's no need for citizens to have guns, is what like is a very popular idea right now, I think, because of
Mass shootings.
yeah.
Okay, are we going there?
Yeah, let's go there.
I don't know if you guys saw, but there was, so what was the last one in Texas? Uvalde.
Uvalde.
Yeah, so with the last mass shooting in Texas, there's been like multiple reports from different journalists that the cops were there, like lined up, dozens of them, and they were told not to go in when there was one shooter. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, yeah, of course you don't want to cause any more casualties, but bro, like there were casualties regardless. So the best I don't know, I wasn't put in the position, but there were actually parents that went in there and saved their kids, but the people with the guns didn't.
Do you think that's more like, cause like shit, I watched too many movies back in the day, right? But is that more like code, like regular service police officers can't just go in there, even though they're trained to like,
It
do
might be
this stuff?
protocol, but
Yeah,
fuck
protocol.
protocol.
That's
Exactly. Fuck the
right.
code, dude. If there's an armed threat inside a school with innocent children, why are you sitting there doing nothing? And
Yeah,
I've seen my 2 cents on it, is that yes, you need to take your personal safety and your family safeties in your own hands, because there's been time and time again a situation proven that the system that we have for protection of civilians is failing.
yeah,
And
and
so
it's
I'm going
also
to take it into my own hands. It's crazy because actually the town I live in, Arvada, small town Colorado, it's a 1 year anniversary. There was a guy, we were just there, Old Town. It's a small little public market. It's like 4 square blocks. They have little stores, they have farmers market. It's a cute little old town. People out there all the time. A year ago today, there was a guy there with a gun who started opening fire on the square. An innocent civilian had a concealed carry, took out his gun and killed him. The police arrived on the scene and they killed that guy who killed the shooter.
Oh, what the fuck?
The
what?
police denied shooting him. They covered it up. There's a whole media investigation. They eventually found that they did kill him. They obviously couldn't hide the fact that they did. Look at my Twitter right now. I didn't say his name if I'm mentioning it here so people can look into it for themselves. But it's honestly, it blows my mind. And it's again another situation of like, damn, like, I mean, people are saying, yeah, the cops could have identified the shooter, but like, then there's a perspective the cops just came in that heard someone was the gun. They saw him with the gun, so they shot him. But again, it's just another example of like, I think taking that sort of thing into our own hands is important,
Mhm.
and because the police aren't going to save you.
Also, I don't know why I know this, but I think it's important to know. I think it's really freaking important for people to know this. If at any point you're doing anything regarding self-defense, whether it be like you're throwing hands or you have to stab someone or you have to shoot someone, like you're supposed to go and try to save them. Like even if they are just like out freaking cold, at least go and attempt to save them, because then you can claim it was self-defense and not like a hate crime or something like that.
Right.
You guys can look that up yourself, of course, but that's unfortunate.
Super.
Like,
His name was John Hurley, for people that want to look into that situation on their own time.
Yeah, that's good to know. That's how you can like, especially if there's witnesses, right? Like, oh yeah, this guy shot him, but then he tried to save him, even though he knew he was dead, because it was self-defense, right?
yeah,
Like
actually,
that
I think
makes sense.
everyone should go to self-defense class. I went to like 1 or 2 and I learned like a fuck ton.
Yeah, that's good, especially living in
Yeah,
Miami. There's
reality.
a lot of psychos out there. So what are you doing to I know you have big philanthropy ambitions. So in this crazy, crazy world, obviously, that we live in now, what are some of the things that you want to do or that you're currently doing to kind of like leave your footprint, and like as far as making the world a better place?
That's something that I ask myself pretty frequently, because I have this thing in my, you can call them dreams, goals, whatever. Like I want to be a Nobel Prize nominee. Maybe not a winner, but I want to be nominated. Which means that I have to do something fucking spectacular, like something really freaking impactful, like change, bring back like free energy or change water or just educate the masses or something, you know, like we've seen amazing people just like represent something like Malala. I don't know if she has a Nobel Peace Prize actually, but you know, something to that extent, like I got to do something and I don't know what that something is. Like, I'm really not sure. Can it have to do with the animals? Maybe. I don't have that answer. So it's something that kind of like, I'm confident that it might come to me at some point. Yeah, maybe not now, maybe when I'm 60, 80 or whatever, but it's definitely something that I seek. Like, I have this friend back in Chicago. He was, what's the word? Unjustly put behind bars for self-defense, actually. Somebody was coming at him and then he like fought back at a bar and he got 5 years in prison, 5 years that he'll never get back in his life. And so yeah, it's the system has flaws. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, he's a really great dude, right? And he does trading because in his experience, like when he left that jail, when he got out, you get $10, at least in Cook County. You know, it could be different in other places, but you get $10 to your name to buy yourself a sandwich, and then, as you know, good luck, best wishes. So basically, he told me that story. You know, me, an empath. I'm just kind of like, fuck, we gotta do something about this, man. Like, I want to go. I want to change the prison system. I want to make sure that people are good before they even get out. Like, know that they have somewhere to go. Know that they have resources. Know that they can trade. Know that they can. You know, like he was put behind bars in a time that, funny enough, like technology was evolving. So he didn't know what an iPhone was. It was like crazy like that. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm a few conversations away and a few connections away from knowing what that'll be like. But I don't have an actual answer.
Yeah, you got a crypto crime club, right? That's a big
that's also part of that too.
Yeah.
So it's just like, okay, I have this person and this project. Let's do something here.
Yeah, you don't gotta know how. You just gotta know why.
Mhm.
How it always presents itself. But you said, I caught something you said about energy, free energy. You said bring it back. What did you mean by that?
Nikola Tesla. Humanity already existed. We just got to monetize everything because commercialism.
I hope that blew someone's brain and they go look into that now because that was a bar.
That is a bar. You know, it's so interesting because, you know, I've been studying Think and Grow Rich, and Napoleon Hill credits Thomas Edison for, well, yours is thicker than mine. Why is that? I was like, hey, I don't know.
It doesn't matter, Mondo.
Mine's got missing information. Thomas Edison accredits, Napoleon Hill accredits Thomas Edison for like creating energy, right? For like being responsible for the light bulb and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I believe a lot of the stuff, the majority of the stuff that's in that book, right? But just some of that stuff is just kind of like, ugh, you know, like that's not necessarily true. So like, why is this getting it? Yeah. Oh, true. Ignorance. Damn.
Yeah. I mean, you could be super, that's the craziest thing about human beings is like someone would be super well versed in one particular area. I see Napoleon Hill super well versed in the laws of manifestation and attraction, but does he have all of his facts straight on everything? Absolutely not. And that's the problem with looking up to people like they know everything about everything. Not a single person, not a single one of us does.
Right.
Thanks. Where are you getting your information now, Nancy? Who do you look up to now? And so we talked about like who you looked up to before, but you know, now where are you piecing your pieces from?
I'm following Alex and Layla Harmozy like kind of religiously, like pretty much every new piece of content, and like either Mike sends it to me or I'm already watching it at the gym or something like that. Just because I haven't seen that happen, you know, a centimillionaire at like 30.
Sheesh.
Yeah. No, they're savage. They're like next level. Anybody listening, like you gotta look them up. Like they're like Mike says it too. Like they're that piece that was missing in like that mentorship. Because a lot of mentors nowadays, they talk relatively about the same thing. They say the same things, you know, in a different way. But he taps into so many different aspects of business and just like hits you with it, like right hook, like boom, just it's so sexy the way that he just like presents information. And his wife too, man, she's a savage.
That's the thing. Like, they're not just great at what they do, but they're also good at giving the information so that you can go out and do it too.
Yeah.
Whether we take action or not, that's completely on us. But the option is there, the information is there. And I think more than anything, it's just like, again, like kind of borrowing belief. Like, oh shit, this meathead did it. I think I could do it. Maybe. Yes.
Oh, who else? Just them two?
No, like people that are in close proximity, for example, like Matt, Jay, Alex Morton, Chris Terry. Like, he's actually someone that I don't just admire for like, yeah, because I'm in his company or whatever, but like, he's quite the character. The more that I learn about him, I'm kind of like impressed, or he's just a character. I couldn't explain another way. Them, Bob Proctor, John C. Maxwell. Honestly, like anyone that I can learn something from, I'm gonna learn something from them. Whether it's what to do, what not to do. I like that. I don't like that. Maybe questioning it, like, okay, but is it always that way, or why do you think that? Or questioning myself, why am I against that? You know, just like learning from everyone.
I know, kind of stole my question, but if there was someone, since you mentioned Alex and Layla, I think that'd be your first answer. But if there was someone in the world, anybody, who would you want to have access to that you don't have already? To learn from, obviously, be mentored by.
Yeah, I want to mention someone else. Like, I feel like Alex and Layla pretty much pour the information out. But if I can sit down and have like a lunch with someone in particular,
Could be dead or alive. Anybody. It's opened up a whole nother.
have you guys read the book The Creature of Jekyll Island?
Yeah.
Not completely.
I might sit down with like JP Morgan or someone way back when, because what they created wasn't new. The banking system wasn't necessarily new. It was rebranded. So I want to know how to rebrand now.
Ooh.
Like how,
Dang.
like they changed their financial system. They pretty much laid out a skeleton of what's going to be the norm, right? Like if we were in that island having this conversation and we're like, okay, like let's create these contracts, let's create these banks. People are going to be using them for X, Y, and Z. Okay, what would that look like if we would have that conversation with today? How can we transition? And how can I be in front of the trend?
That's a big, that's a big monster there. It's a big piece of cake.
Okay, I have a question for you guys. Do you guys think that the financial system that we know today is going to be one that our grandkids know?
Grandkids. So like 100 years from now?
Like 50.
Damn.
I personally don't think so.
I think yes and no. I'm like in between. I think we'll be in transition because I mean, just look at the shit that's happening now, like this should happen in 1920, like the same things that were happening right now happen in 1920. We didn't learn from it then. It happened again in 2001. Didn't learn from it then. It happened again in 2008. Yes, do we have smarter people and we have had 3 different scenarios where this has happened? Yeah, but it's happening again, So it's cyclical. And I don't think that, the power, right? These people that you just talked about, I don't think that they're willing to do that. But I think, it goes to a conversation that Jordan and I have had with a couple of different people here. Ray Dalio talks about the shifting world power. I think that has to happen first before the current economic system that's here in the US shifts. I don't think changes, but shifts. Because I mean, how much, and I don't know the answer to this, maybe you guys do, but how much does the current economic or financial system have to do with the Constitution? So like, if they're hand in hand, like you would, in order to change the financial system, you would essentially have to change, like in the 1920s, I just learned this the other day, right? The 1920s, the SEC happened because of the market crash in 2000 or in 1920, in 1929. So the SEC was founded by, I think, something Roosevelt, I think was his name or something, one of those guys. So the guy who was president at the time, that's who funded the SEC. And so because the SEC now exists, like now there's corruption within that allows different things to happen or not happen. So in order for that to evolve or to shift or transition, something catastrophic needs to happen. And I think it's the changing world power that can cause that. But then again, it goes to like that theory, right? Like what is it? Cause, reaction, and or
Hegelian dialect.
yeah, that.
Problem, reaction, solution. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, and that's exactly why I think it's happening. We're seeing it. The system is changing. The dollars, we're so insolvent, bro. We're so far in debt. Like, we're so bankrupt. Yeah, Nancy mentioned it. Jekyll Island, 1913. You create the Federal Reserve, and then you have those series of Bretton Woods of the financial system completely changing to the point where it's at today, where our dollars aren't backed by anything. Still to the day, right now, 85% of trade is selling in dollars. But think of it, if you weren't in the U.S. and if you weren't on the beneficiary side of the hegemony of the dollar right now, wouldn't you want a new system? Wouldn't you want trade to be settled in a different currency for it to be different people pulling the strings? I think that's happening. I think all the things are aligning. The US losing its power, the dollar losing its power, China rising. Just the fact that we've been in power for 100 years, like Ray Dalio says, nobody stays in power for that long. Before us, it was Britain. Before them, it was Dutch. So it's. I think it's overdue. I think that system has ran its course, and we're gonna. I think in this like 2020, in my opinion, was this is such a loaded statement, but it was 2020 was the launch of the New World Order. That was the commencement. That was the sequence of events that's going to lead to what we're talking about: the demise of the dollar, the changing of the systems, the shift into the new economy, the new world. Like, I believe 100% that's what we're going through. That's what we're seeing. And like, it's already set in stone. Like, these plans have been made a long time ago.
And isn't it weird? At least I think about this. I don't know if you guys think about this, but I'm just kind of like, what are the odds that I'm living in this time where everything's shifting? Because it's, I don't know about you guys, but like, and of course, like when we were like growing up, we're super naive and oblivious to what's going on around us. But as I grew up, I'm just kind of like, why is everything happening? Like, why are all these viruses going on? Like, was it always like this? Yeah, probably, you know, we had like plague and stuff, but I was just kind of like, are things escalating or something? Like, who turned it up?
Sure. I think so. It's like, dude, yeah, it's just the vibration, the energy of the planet is just rising, you know, and it can be viewed as chaos, it can be viewed as destruction, but what comes after that is birth, rebirth, new construction, like the construction of the new. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and where I'm trying to position myself personally is in alignment with what's coming, because I went down the rabbit hole really deep in 2020 with just the state of the world, the affairs, like the intentions of people, like especially with children trafficking. You know, those are dark subjects, and I went in that rabbit hole, and I came out of it because I learned probably one of the most important lessons of life is being able to identify what you can control and what you can't control. You know, and learning to like act on the things you can control and just learn to live with the things you can't. And unfortunately, the new financial system, the new world order, I can't control any of that, you know. So it's like align with it, or I don't know what else.
I think that's really important what you said. It's kind of like teaching yourself and maybe hopefully others how to have a stomach for like your soul, how to have like thick skin for your soul. Because I've had friends that have dove into that rabbit hole, and like of course I have too, but that they didn't make it out the same. Like it hurt them. It changed their character, it changed their perspective, at least for a temporary amount of time. And I was just like, damn, like not everyone can stomach the truth. That's why, you know, ignorance is bliss. So I think that what you just said is just like having peace with what you can control and peace with what you can't control. That's powerful right there.
Yeah. Because otherwise, yeah, you get stuck. You know, you can get stuck in there, and if you don't, you have to empower yourself with the ability to make change in the aspects of life that you can make change in. You know, and if you're focused on things you can't change, you'll fester and get stuck there. It's like a disease; it'll just keep growing.
Nancy, I kind of have like a finalizing question for you. I know I was talking to my dad about this, and I think there's a lot of people that are in a position where they are just like, you know, he said a lot of people can see, or a lot of people have sight, but they can't see. A lot of people can hear, but they don't listen. You know, I think a lot of people are, you know, just kind of going through the motions of life and, you know, are quote unquote like asleep. You know, like they you know, we talk about this because we obviously we know we're almost forced to educate ourselves on current, you know, world events and stuff like this because we participate in the financial markets which move the world. So we're almost like forced to know these things or to at least educate ourselves constantly on these things. But for most people that were in a position that all three of us were in 4 or 5 years ago, where we were just kind of like step by step walking through life asleep, not really aware of this stuff, like what kind of like piece of advice would you give to someone that's like barely like realizing that these whole things are not coincidences, like these things that are happening in the world, they're not just like random causes, they're not just like, you know, random tragedies, you know, people that still believe that, you know, 9/11 was a terrorist attack, like this kind of stuff, you know, like people that are asleep essentially, like what can you give, like what piece of advice can you give those people, or like what can you tell those people that are like wanting to search for the truth, but just like you said, right, it's tough, not a lot of people want to listen to this stuff because, or to the truth, because they think that, you know, it's dark, you know, just like journalism, like child trafficking, like that's a dark subject, but it's like in front of your face, it's happening all the time and like in the most like public places. So like with, you know, you kind of get where I'm going with this, like what would you tell somebody?
I think a very direct answer would be like follow the money. You know, there's a semi a paper trail. Like you can find the conglomerate, you can find the parent company of who owns this and then who owns that and who owns that if you do extensive research. But something else that I would tell that's maybe a little bit more indirect is look for change, like in yourself. It sounds, again, it might sound really cheesy, but like when you seek ways that you can just not be the same person as who you were yesterday, because if I'm the same person today as I was yesterday, as I was 6 months ago, as I was a year ago, so on and so forth, then my future will also start to look the same. It becomes very predictable, as Dr. Joe Dispenza would put it. And actually that's like one of my biggest fears. Like I do not want to know who I am 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Like I want to be a completely different person. Why? Because seeking that change, it's like margin trading, right? Like that change is where the growth is. If there is no change, there's no opportunity even to grow. So lean into like that discomfort. You'll grow yourself, which is important enough, but for all these other things that are happening around the world, you'll start to just open your mind up to questioning things in a healthy way. You know, sometimes it can get unhealthy too, but like then you'll start to just like be more open-minded, you know, just a little less traditional, just, you know, dig a little deeper, read between the lines. So that's what I would say.
Love that. Read between the lines. That's deep. It's like now right here, read between the lines, right? It's like what's going on? What's happening inside here? Yeah.
I think there's something good about like a healthy skepticism is what I would call it. Just like question it. Why do you have to go to school? Like be like a 4-year-old, right? Like kids are so innocent, but they're actually like really intelligent for not having this mask that we've been almost trained to have. You know, it's like, oh, like mind your manners, raise your hand, ask before you go to the bathroom, you know, like things that we learned in school, but kids don't have that yet. They haven't gone through that training. They haven't gone through the assembly line of teaching people how to become employees. So what do? They ask questions because they're curious. So
Curiosity.
curiosity is a beautiful thing.
I think
So
to wrap that up, I love that answer because it's like I think my opposing question is like when you see the light, you're like, oh, the veil has been lifted. And I love your answer. It's like be open to change and ask good questions.
Mhm.
what was that thing for you, Nan? Sorry, before we get going, what was that thing for you that I want to hear? Because it's
Yeah.
always different for, and I think we've asked this to several people that we've had on here. Like, what was that thing that was just like, oh, here's the wizard, actually, you know, like here's behind the guy behind the curtain. What was that thing for you that was just like, oh,
Hmm. I don't know the one instance for that, like the thing that kind of showed me that everything is orchestrated.
yeah,
The
thing that
markets
woke you up?
definitely help that. What woke me up? Shit, dude. I don't know. I think it was a series of events. I can't like pinpoint one, but I think it was a series of events of, honestly, it's just I felt really complacent and I felt like I was in a simulation. Have you guys watched oh God, what's that movie where he doesn't know he's in a movie, but everyone else does?
Matrix.
No, I know what you're talking about. He's in a dome. It's
Yeah, babe, what's that movie? Where he's in a no, he's the only one that doesn't know that he's in a
Jim
movie.
Carrey, right?
Yeah, Jim Carrey.
Our listeners are like,
Okay.
it's this movie. Just say it.
Yeah, right. Anyway, point being is that I felt like I was in a movie and that everyone knew but me. So I was just like, I don't know. I kind of felt kind of alone. So I just like went looking for stuff. The Truman Show.
Yep. Yep.
Truman Show. That's the one where he puts on the glasses and he's in New York City and he starts seeing everything, or is that not the one?
No, I think
That's a
you're
different
the
one.
guy.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of what did it for me. And then of course, like Jordan mentioned it, 2020, like certain videos started to come out, like people disappearing, people dying out of nowhere. Like I said, follow the money. I'm really salty about Mac Miller dying, but you know.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Dude, yeah, 2020 was a veil lifting year for the world.
I think
Like
so too.
this,
That's what I'm saying is like, did everything just like accumulate and it's just all being brought out right now? Kind of.
Oh,
2020 was, I think, when we all kind of went through to the rabbit hole and things starting to make sense. We're like, fuck, I kind of wish it didn't.
All right, last question for real.
Okay.
Do you think I know I'm only asking this question because one of our listeners was just like, yeah, this is an infamous question. You know, you got to ask this to every guest now. And then I'm going to take a poll up until this happens, right? Do you think Trump will get reelected?
Huh. You'd be surprised with how little I think about politics. Do I think he'd get reelected? I think it's not out of the question because anything is possible. Maybe. He has a good fan base. I'm gonna go with maybe. Does he want to? I don't know. Who wants to be? I don't want to be president. Sounds like a lot of people just lose their hair.
Not technically.
I thought he did, and then they failed the first time. Then they try a second. I thought that was the whole reason why they impeached him, is to let him not getting off this game.
Oh, once you get impeached, you can't get like reelected, right?
Yeah.
You can't?
No, you can't.
Oh, okay.
They didn't kick him out.
They failed the first impeachment, but then they retried him again after he was out of office, and they convicted him.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then I guess I got to stop asking that question.
It doesn't even matter anyways. Like,
yeah, that's true. I'm just trying to bring out to the light all the
Stir the
Trump
pot.
supporters. That's funny, man. All right, Nancy. Well, I appreciate you being on here. Much love to you, Jordan. You got anything you want to add before we wrap up?
No, thank you, Nancy, for being on. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Looking forward to that psychology book you got cooking up, and
Yeah.
excited to see more growth out of you and Mike, and keep doing you, man. Keep doing you, growth.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
Much appreciated. All right, everybody. We'll catch you next time on another episode.
Peace.